Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Hope you guys are all enjoying your weekend or what is left of it. It is the 1st of June and the first day of the summer transfer window. I think a lot of hope, excitement, but also I think expectation to see Newcastle do some good things this window. I mean, it has opened today, but it will only be open for 10 days. And then closed for 6 days, and then open for the summer window. But it would certainly seem that it is Eddie Howe who will be in charge of the transfers this window. After we saw Dan Ashworth try, fail, leave, Paul Mitchell try, arguably fail, hasn't left yet, but will be at the end of the month. It's Eddie Howe who will be in charge of, what some reports are saying as much as, £250 million spend this window. So that's why I say it is exciting. Like, there's hope from the fans that we can get some good deals done this summer. But I think it does come with a little expectation because of the fact, that we haven't really done as much as we should have in previous windows. Whether that was for PSR, whether it was, failed attempts of previous sporting directors. This time round, I think Eddie Howe's a man who's not let us down up to this point. From his own words, we have no PSR issues, and he has been very strong in his own interview saying, that he wants a big window for us. So I thought, what? First day of the summer transfer window. It'd be fun to jump on, talk a little bit about, what I hope to see. You guys can let me know down in the comments what you hope to see as well. Talk about, Eddie Howe's hopes for the window, and the big opportunity we have, having qualified for Champions League, not being a team struggling with PSR, and also a little bit about players potentially leaving still as well. I know a lot of the talk is players coming in, but I wouldn't write off players going either. So yeah, in terms of players leaving, there's a few with contracts ending, but there is also a few actually linked to transfers out of the club as well. In terms of contracts coming to an end, obviously Callum Wilson is the one people are talking about. He was obviously in tears at St James's Park for the last game of the season. Looks like his time is up. Other reports, are quick to say that Newcastle could look to offer him a different kind of deal in terms of incentives. If he's available, if he's fit, if he can play, if he does play games. Similar to when Andy Carroll was our deadline signing, not that many years ago, and it was reported that he only got paid if he played. And Steve Bruce was bringing him on for the last minute of every game so that he could get his wage that week. How true that is, I don't know. And does Callum Wilson want that? I don't know. Do you want that? I don't think I do. I think Callum Wilson was great for us again in terms of Premier League scorers for Newcastle. He's in the top 10, top 5. I think at this point it's ready to move him on. And you've got a few other names in there as well. Jamal Lewis, we've not seen him in bloody ages. His contract's finally coming to an end. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with him. I got a message off a friend the other day mentioning the fact that he's actually deleted his Instagram recently as well. So who knows what's going on with Jamal Lewis and what his next steps will be. Then you've got the likes of a John Ruddy and Gillespie. Both of those contracts are ending, as I say, at the end of June as well. I think Newcastle probably aren't that far away from confirming their retention list or list of players to go. We did it for the women's team. 12 women are leaving the women's team. I mean, wow, that is certainly, I think, showing that we mean business going to the next season for the women's team. And I would like us to do the same for the men's as well. Now, you talk about Ruddy and Gillespie, you can talk about Pope, Vlaco Dimos, and Dubravka. I think there will be a big mix-up in the goalkeeping department. I don't think it'll just be, if Ruddy or Gillespie stays, I think for Ruddy, it should just make him a coach at this point. And then I would be surprised if Pope, Vlaco Dimos, and Dubravka are all still here at the start of next season as well. So in terms of goalkeepers, as I say, I think there will be movement there. You can talk about Sean Longstaff. He's being linked away this summer as well. The Longstaff one's interesting because Champions League, homegrown players. And you don't have to have them. Like, people are saying, oh, you've got to have 4 Geordies available. You don't. You just don't submit as long a squad list. And this is similar to decisions Newcastle have been making all season. You know, we were getting pushed into the Gahey deal, you know, a few years ago or a year ago, and we didn't pay the money. We took the risk a little bit, and then as it turned out, Dan Burn and Shaw were great. You know, it's similar to going into the Champions League. If Leeds are offering a good wage for Longstaff, then is it worth taking? Because really, how much game time would you get anyway, even if he wasn't the Champions League squad? So these are the kind of decisions we'll have to make. You know, if you want to go a little bit further up the ladder, you've got the likes of Gordon, still being heavily linked with Liverpool. I would be surprised if Eddie Howe would let Gordon go. When you talk about us being able to spend all this money and having it available, as much as I don't think Gordon's set the world alight this season, I think Barnes has definitely been the better of the two, although I would still argue that on Gordon's day, when he is playing and like he should, that he's still the better player. And I think Eddie Howe may well see it that way as well. Because even when Barnes was scoring, he still brought Gordon back in. So there's a few players there on that list that I think we could well see go this summer. But obviously, the main attention is for players coming in. And I have just spoke about goalkeepers, so we'll start with that one as well. Trafford, he's the goalkeeper who was being linked from Burnley. Reports were actually saying that it was pretty much tied up, sealed, delivered, and we were just waiting for the window to open. Checking me watch there. It is definitely the 1st of June, and I've not spotted him outside of St. James's Park just yet. But reports are that we're interested in a goalkeeper. Garcia, the Espanyol goalie, has also been thrown around in the media a fair bit as well. I think for me, if the season starts with Pope and goal, I won't necessarily be upset. But I just feel that Pope is not great with his feet, which I think, in fairness, we force him into not being good with his feet. Watch the Everton game back. Jordan Pickford didn't pass it to anyone. He just lumped it all the time. And it created absolute havoc for our defender. So I really don't know why we force Nick Pope to pass it around the back when he clearly struggles with it. Dubravka was on his way in January. I think he'll go this summer. I think he'll, follow Paul Mitchell to Saudi, because that's what the links are saying today, that Paul Mitchell is actually being linked over there. Could that be his next career move? Who knows? And that's the thing. I don't think, for the owners, really, you could argue that they got it wrong. You know, you could blame Paul Mitchell, but they brought in Dan Ashworth, brought in Paul Mitchell, two, highly regarded people in that position of sporting director, and it didn't work. And it wasn't because, obviously the reports are that Paul Mitchell wasn't the easiest person to get on with. But I think it was just us. It was just Eddie Howe. It's the way Newcastle do business. It's not to say that he can't all go over to Saudi and do them a good job over there. But yes, Dubravka was obviously linked that way too. And that's why I say I wouldn't be surprised to see more people go. I don't think Eddie Howe is a fan of Vlaco Dimos because of the way that deal was done. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave as well. But will Newcastle buy 3 goalies this summer? No. I think if it's Nick Pope, Dubravka, 2 experienced goalies, 2 very good Premier League goalies, but both with, not perfect games, to have someone maybe a bit younger who can start to take over throughout the season is a sensible idea. And then you go on to centre-back as well. That's another position that's highly talked about, and I fully expect us to bring in a centre-back. Is it going to be Mark Gahey? It will if Eddie Howe has anything to say about it, because I think Eddie Howe loves that guy. The amount of times we keep getting linked with him every transfer window, it didn't take 5 minutes for it to happen this time around. With a year less on his deal now, you would imagine that the price would be closer to what Newcastle would hope to pay. Is he in a rush to leave, though? He's just won himself an FA Cup there, and he's getting a chance to play in Europa League with a side he's been at for a while. Obviously, Newcastle, however, will offer him the opportunity of Champions League, and for Crystal Palace's sake, if they don't sell him, they'll get nothing for him in a year's time. So I think the Gahey one's good. Could it be a bit of a smoke screen as Eddie Howe looks at a few of the centre-backs? That wouldn't surprise me either. I would go as far to say is that's not the only position we need to look at, to be honest. Left back, right back. I think right back's fine if Livermento's going to play there with Trippier, but obviously Lewis Hall's been injured. I don't really want to play Dan Burn left back. Target, didn't mention him. It would be nice to maybe move him on this summer as well. He was a part of a list of players that, again, Eddie Howe didn't hold back on and was said that we would look at all options. Another left-sided centre-back with the Sven Botman injury stuff as well. So it's one to watch, but undoubtedly right-sided centre-back is a key position, as well as right wing, and obviously the big links are with Mbeumo. Or Mbeumo. I've said it said different ways. Regardless, he's a player I would like. Heavily linked with Manchester United as well, interestingly enough. But that's why I said at the start of this video, that's why Champions League is so important for us. It's important for us because of player retention. Isak, Tonali, Bruno, you're going to play in the best competition in the world. Mbeumo, Gahey, whoever, come and play for us. We're in the best competition in the world. And that's not even going down the money side of things. You talk about, in terms of the 3-year PSR rolling, they reckon we're going to basically get 70 million back off that, plus the fact we're getting Champions League. The money stacks up. Will it be 250 million exactly? If it is, I don't think we would spend that much. I don't think we would put that much in and then have another January where we can't do anything and a summer following where we can't either. But that's why it's also important that we play a trade. And so you talk about, let's spend loads of money, but we should also be looking to maybe move one or two players on that brings money back, that then we can kind of circulate a little bit. But right wing is a must. Jacob Murphy, once again, you talk about how well Dan Burns done after not bringing in a centre-back after Sven Botman getting injured. There's so many things over the last few years that was like saying, we're going to move Burn on or whatever. And he's been fantastic. Jacob Murphy, Murphy's an interesting one because he can play, one of the best games you'll ever see, get the second most goal contributions behind Salah in the league, and then be poor. I actually think Murphy fell off at the end of the season because Isak wasn't playing great. I tell you what, it makes you look good when you're crossing the ball into the best striker in the world. So as soon as Isak isn't playing his perfect game, Murphy, and I think that's why Mbeumo is a big help to us, because he will not just rely on maybe linking up with an Isak. He can do things on his own as well. And if Isak isn't having a great game, it's taking a bit of pressure off. Because I think there was a lot of pressure on Isak. Yes, he scored 25 goals this season. Thank you very much. But I think that's why Barnes shone actually, because he was a bit of a unexpected saviour who actually started playing really well and scoring goals. But no doubt the right wing position is a must. If we can just nail Mbeumo early on this week before it closes again for a week, that would be very nice. And then striker is a position I also think we need to look at. Will Asula, as far as I can tell, he's well loved within the camp of Newcastle, swinging a scarf, wearing a scarf on his head for the open top bus. But whatever it is, he's just not Eddie Howe's flavour of the week. I hope he is next season. I hope he does get more game time. I have to say, bringing Wilson on for 5 minutes at the end of games, surely at that point, and that's why I'm saying I think it's right for Wilson to make his move, because surely that time is better suited to likes of an Asula. Delap going to Chelsea, I think's a shame. I think it would have been good for us. You can talk about game time. I think we would have given him loads of game time. We're offering him Champions League. We'll match Chelsea on the wages. We'll give you loads of football. And he turns around and goes, but can I start the first game of the season? No, that's Isak. So you can see why that was probably a real sticking point in our negotiations. But we need someone to back Isak up. Again, when he wasn't playing great, didn't have a lot of options. and it's João Pedro is the man who's been said to be a player that we are back in for. Again, not surprised. Another player that Eddie Howe's back in for after showing a lot of interest in the past. So yes, there's some key positions there, and hopefully, you know, if you could say that those 4 positions will be filled with some of the examples I've given throughout this video, it wouldn't be too bad, would it? And if we're going to move a few players on like a Target, you know, Jamal Lewis out of contract anyway. You know, I'm not. The Longstaff one's interesting because I think he can still work hard when he needs to, and he will fill a European spot. If Leeds offer us 25 million, then I think it's probably time for him to move. And again, Eddie Howe, who's someone who regularly bigs up a Longstaff, kind of didn't in more recent interviews, and that's what makes me think that he's getting more ruthless with what he's saying, and I think he's ready to do it. I've mentioned this a few times. I'll mention it again. One of you guys commented saying, Eddie Howe, you know, nothing like a change of perspective after a trip to a hospital or a life-threatening illness. And I think it's right. I think he's come back and he's gone, Paul Mitchell isn't doing what I'm telling him to do, and I'm going to do it right. And they've gone, okay, maybe not quite that way. But I think Eddie Howe's taken over. I don't think he's taking prisoners anymore. I think he's worked damn hard for where he's got to, and that's why I'm excited that he is going to be the man in charge of this push this summer, and, you know, what is reportedly as much as 250 million to spend. So there you go. The window's open. I look forward to seeing some new players out. Hopefully, you know, look forward to seeing some new players outside of St James's Park very soon. We definitely will. I would like it to be, if we can, very soon, and just start getting stuff done. Pre-season, Singapore, whatever. Let's have 2 of them on the plane. Let's be in for it early doors, not waiting around till the last minute. I think the Newcastle tax will be a thing. I think it's been far too well documented that we've got money to spend, and because of that, it makes it tough. But again, you know, end of June is, you know, the PSR deadline as well. There will be teams looking to try and move players on this month, early in the summer, likes of potentially a Villa, likes of potentially an Everton with the stadium stuff. You know, if there's an opportunity in there for us, let's hope we can go ahead and take it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're still watching, you know, nigh on 20 minutes later, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the video. As I say, there will be loads of content coming this summer. Hopefully, as I say, me outside of St James's Park, spotting a few players walking in the door, getting really close to 50,000 subscribers. So hit the button, hit the big subscribe button. It helps the channel grow, helps me the video be put out to more people as well. So I do appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your Sunday night, and I'll catch you later.